We welcome you back to the North Middlesex Regional High School View. I'm Karen Fitzpatrick here with Chris Tucker, Caitlin Ramsey, and our principal, Mrs. Battye.
Today we will be talking about education in the next millennium, 21st century skills, and skills-based instruction.
Mrs. Battye, we have some real questions for you today, including education in the next millennium.
Well, great. So tell me what you think education will be like in the next millennium.
I would tell you, but I don't know what a millennium is. Karen, do you know?
Nope, no idea.
Okay.
You don't know what a millennium is?
I kind of forgot.
No.
Okay. Well, let's think about this. Millennium. How would you go, if you don't know a word, what would you do to find out what the word meant?
I would look it up in a dictionary.
Okay. What else could you do to find out?
Google.
Google it,
Like, what
maybe?
is
Okay.
a millennium.
Okay. So if you don't know something, you can find the answer, correct?
Yep.
Well, that's really what education in the next millennium is all about. So for the next 1,000 years, what are you going to learn in school? You think about how much information is out there. You can go online and you can find out anything. You can find out about skeet shooting in Australia. You can find out about blood doping in the Tour de France. You can find out what a millennium is, right? Mm-hmm. It's not important that you know that information off the top of your head, right? What's really important is you know how to find out what the answer is. So that's really what education will be in the next millennium, right?
Yes.
Okay. So if you think about it, what do you think it will be like? What do you think in 2040, what do you think schools will be like in 2040?
I think we'll have lots of more, we'll have like a lot more advanced technology for the students to use, and you know, updated books and everything. Mm-hmm. It'll be way more updated.
Way more updated, mm-hmm. like all the time,
like,
updated.
Yep, all the time.
Okay. Real-time books.
Yep, real time.
Okay, what do you think it would be like?
Actually, I think we would have computers mostly, and instead of writing down on pencil and paper, I would think we'd be using, let's say, an iPad or something for our schoolwork.
Okay.
As in taking notes.
So yeah, so you wouldn't even have paper.
Yeah.
You would just write everything down on like a tablet or something, and
Yeah.
it would go somewhere.
I think they covered it all. I mean, like the books, like in the new, they put the books like in the iPad and you flip through, like that kind of thing. Like we might not even need books at one point. And
right.
then, yeah, with the writing on the iPad, no paper, nothing like that. It could be
Oh, it sounds
crazy.
pretty exciting, doesn't it? And what do you think you'll be learning about in classes?
Well,
Like say a biology. What would be biology class be like 2040?
Well, there would be newer ideas on how to study.
Okay.
So it wouldn't be like we're learning, you know, stuff we're learning now. Like in the past, mm-hmm. like we wouldn't be learning 80s stuff. We'd be learning like 2040 stuff.
Okay, so the content would be different. So content is really the stuff that you learn, the information that you learn. Okay?
Yeah.
So the information is going to be different from what you're learning today, and you're going to be learning how to figure out what that information is rather than just memorizing definitions of, you know, RNA and DNA. Like that's kind of what we do a lot now is we look and we memorize things and we tell the teachers back what they told us in class, and we just kind of, that's how we do learning.
Yeah.
But in the next millennium, it's going to be more the teachers sitting back and giving you a task to do. And you guys might have to work out and work together to figure out an answer to a problem or figure out a solution to an environmental issue or something that's happening that's a real experience that you might go to in the job market someday. So that's really, really exciting. So probably the biggest thing is that there is so much information. Like when schools were invented, we were living in the industrial age. All you had to really know how to do was to go and work on a farm or go and work in a factory, and you would be set for life. You would have a job, and you'd be able to buy a home, and you'd be able to do all the stuff, you know, buy a station wagon and go on vacation. But now, we don't live in that agrarian society anymore. We're living in a global society, and you have to be able to go out and be able to converse with somebody in India or Sri Lanka or, you know, gosh, who knows, by 2040 you might be talking to somebody up in outer space or something. So, you know, there's so much information to learn. We have to take a look at what's really essential for kids to know. And really what's essential is you need to know how to learn. You need to know how to think rather than just know how to remember things. See what I mean? Because this is impossible. You'd be in school until you're 40. And then there'd still be more information for you to learn because there's new information being found out every day. So we have to find a different way to do school because you can't just give kids information anymore. So what do you think that you would need to know when you graduate from high school? What do you think you need to know? Every kid should walk out of here knowing.
How to communicate with the rest of the world.
Okay, so what's communication? Define what communication is.
Either between second language.
Okay, so maybe a second language.
Definitely. I think that would definitely help out a lot of people, you know, working in the business industries and everything, be able to communicate, you know, not just English, but, you know, Chinese or sign language, French, Spanish.
Anything.
Anything.
And it's not just speaking the language. You have to be fully literate in a language. You have to be able to read it.
You can read it,
and write it and speak it and listen to it. Because we all know, I mean, think about how people talk down south. You know, we all know that people talk differently in different regions of the area. So you have to kind of know how to listen to them to kind of get what they're talking about.
Yeah, you have to know their cultural background too.
Okay, so you have to be, you have to kind of understand human nature and the culture and the society that the person and the people live in. So that's another great skill to have, to be able to say, oh, I know somebody from, I don't know, give me Tibet. What are some of the customs there? Can I shake that person's hand? Can I look them in the eye? Because in some countries it's disrespectful to look somebody in the eye. So it's that kind of stuff. So you need to be a global citizen. What else? So you have communication, and you have sort of a global awareness or global citizenship. What else do you think you need to know?
Well, like, I think communication is a really big thing, but like another thing that goes along with that is hard work and responsibility.
Okay.
You should be able to, every student should, you know, have some idea of responsibility when they're coming out of this building, because as they grow older, when they get jobs and stuff, the boss is going to expect them to know to get, you know, work done in a certain amount of time.
Right,
and stuff,
meet deadlines. So
Meet
some people
deadlines.
call those like habits of mind or managing resources. So you have to know if you have a budget, you know, you make $40,000 a year, you have to know, can you afford that $3,000 a month apartment or a house payment? So managing your resources, being responsible, being able to, you know, get along and manage your life. Okay, so communication, cultural awareness, managing life.
Definitely, like with also going along with like the managing life and stuff, practicing and developing good study habits for when the students go to college, because, you know, they're going to have so many different professors that want this
Well,
done.
not just college.
Yeah, not just
Remember,
college,
everything is changing every day. You've got to know how to do it all the time.
Yep.
Now, you two are awfully quiet over there.
Well, I was just thinking also being able to like take order and be respectful to other people is definitely something you should be able to take away from high school.
Yep.
Because in college, you need to respect people. You can't just walk around like you're all that. I mean, you need to be able to talk to people and treat them how you want to be treated. And being able to take order goes back to like college too. Like, you need to be able to listen to your professors, get your work done on time, and later when you have a career, your boss is going to tell you to do something, and you have to do it. You can't just say no and ignore them, because it has to get done. It's your job, and that's how you're making your money, and that's how you're paying for everything.
Exactly. So some people call that emotional intelligence. Like some people, you have to be able to look at a situation and figure out how do you act appropriately in that situation, how do you interact with people in different situations, but you also have to know how to influence others and collaborate with others and work together with other people. So absolutely, very good. All right, you're on the spot.
On the spot. Well, actually, on this paper that I was giving,
yeah,
it says, what do we have to give up to fit in?
Okay, so if we take time to teach kids to collaborate with each other, or to critically think about an issue, or to access information online or whatever, what are they not going to get to learn? Is that what you're kind of saying?
Well, I was kind of thinking, since we're talking about global,
yeah,
I was actually thinking if you say you have to live in Greece or something for this, like, I don't know, some kind of student project, or you exchange student or something like that, what are you exactly customs you have to give up to go fit in there?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. So yeah, how do you adapt to a new environment, like being flexible?
Yep.
Oh, that's a really good one. Thinking creatively a little bit. I like that. That's another 21st century skill. You need to be able to take information that you have and think creatively about it so that you can apply it to a new situation. So it's funny that you guys are coming up with all these same things, because I asked this same question to the whole entire faculty probably back in September on our first professional development day. And they came up with 10 sort of answers, 10 categories. They wrote them all down on a sticky note, and they put them all up on different flip chart paper, and they came up with 10 different things. We then took a look at what all the research is saying out there about what kids should know and be able to do in the next millennium. And can you guess what? They were exactly the same. They just used different words to describe them, which of course we can pick what we want to call them, label them here, but they kind of all mean the same thing. So what they came up with was, just like you were saying, wellness and emotional intelligence. You need to be able to know how to take care of yourself from a physical point of view, but you also have to be able to take care of yourself from an emotional point of view. You have to know if you're feeling upset about something, how are you going to cope with that?
Know when to, take a break from things, and then know when you're well enough to get going again.
Exactly, exactly. So that was one thing that they thought was very important. And also, anybody that has had a major illness in their life, or is it a car crash or whatever, they'll tell you how important it is to maintain your health. And nobody thinks about how important your physical health is until something goes wrong, because we take it for granted, basically. So the next thing that they talked about was accessing and interpreting information. You guys have to know how to go out there and figure out what this word means, or this sentence, or this graph, or this chart, or this set of numerical data. So that's another whole category. You need to know how to take in information and figure out what it means. But then you also have to go out the other direction and communicate it out, like you guys were saying, being able to take a look at a graph and describe what the graph means in words. We also talked about looking at technology and how to use technology to do something with information. And what influence does technology have on us as a society in our lives? And, is TV creating a place where kids are only learning to violently solve their problems instead of peacefully solving their problems? That's called media literacy. And then we talked about reasoning abstractly and using inventive thinking. So can we apply this stuff to something new and create something new out of it? We talked about exploring and solving problems creatively. Taking risks. Do you think that's a skill? Taking risks?
Yeah, because we learned it in a class. It's called health.
Oh, so what did they teach you about taking risks?
Sometimes you could have a healthy risk.
Okay.
And sometimes you can have an unhealthy risk. So unhealthy risk is probably running across a highway.
Oh, true. That's not good. Yeah.
And then a healthy risk is probably trying some kind of new food, like if you're in a foreign country.
Perfect. But you still have to be able to do it, right?
Yeah.
You still have to be able to weigh the pros and cons. Like, if I step across 119, am I going to get hit by that bus? That's a skill.
It's a risk.
Yeah, it is a risk. Then collaborating and influencing other people. You have to be able to work with people, and you also have to be able to convince people and persuade people on occasion to help you manage your life resources, like you guys talked about. And then, of course, the local and global citizenship. So we came up with these 10 big things that we feel that every kid should be able to know and do. But you have to know and be able to do it in every single content area. So in science, you need to be able to do those things. In social studies, you need to be able to do all of those things. So you getting a little overwhelmed yet?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, yes, I am.
Absolutely.
She agrees with me.
Right, because you'll have to be in school until you're 40, right, to do all that, right?
Yeah.
60 maybe. Yeah. So how are we going to do all this is the question. So I have a little example or a little metaphor for us to use when we talk about 21st century skills. And what does it mean for us in the classroom? What does it mean for you guys as students? What does it mean for us as teachers? So I thought we might go back to 1985 to look at how life was like, school was like back then, and then compare it to what we're talking about now. Sound good? Hi guys, welcome to 1985.
Hi.
How you doing? Oh, I wasn't Mrs. Battye then. I was Miss Letts then. I got married. Okay.
Oh,
You get to change your name when you get married. Okay. So back in the 1980s, when I went to college to learn how to be a teacher, they taught us how to teach kids differently than how we teach kids now. So, review for me once again, what ingredients do we need to make pickles?
The ingredients that we need to make pickles are vinegar, salt, cucumbers, onions, and dill.
Onions and dill.
And the jar.
And the jar, of course. And the jar is really important
jar.
because back in 1985, there wasn't as much research about how kids learn. There wasn't like, MRIs and all kinds of, electronic devices that they could tell how the brain works. So we just kind of went on observation. So back in the 1980s, when I was in college, we basically approached making pickles or educating kids like this. We would get our student, and we thought our students were just like this jar, empty vessels that were just awaiting our vast amounts of knowledge to educate them. Okay, so we looked at kids like that, okay? So there's our student. Then I went to college, and I better hurry because I'm late for the Bon Jovi concert. Then I went to college and they said, well, to educate kids, all you really had to do was tell them stuff about things. You give them all kinds of information.
Stuff about things.
Yeah. You might be in my health class and I might teach you about self-esteem. So I would have you define the word self-esteem.
Oh, I see.
But does that give you self-esteem?
No, you're just telling us about it.
I'm just telling you about it, exactly. So how we viewed education was that we had our content, our vinegar, and if I were to make pickles back in the 80s mode, I would take my content and enlighten my students by basically filling their head with all kinds of good content. I would fill it up with, data and facts and statistics about what the latest research said. Okay. So then, if I were still back in the 80s and they were to tell me that I have to teach kids skills in addition to my content, I would be like, whoa, wait a minute. The content is the most important part of the pickle. It's the vinegar that makes the pickle a pickle. So we don't need anything else. We got plenty of content right here, and I can actually give you some more right here. All right? And there's my student, well educated.
With.
Would you like to eat a pickle?
There's no pickles in there.
Right. So, want a sip?
No, thank you.
And what would it taste like?
Pretty sure vinegar.
Yeah.
Pretty vinegary.
And water.
Now,
Not
hey,
very tasty.
if I were to make a pickle and do this, here, you can have a pickle. What would it taste like?
Pretty bland.
Bland.
But mostly like a cucumber.
Boring. More cucumber than anything?
Yeah.
Okay, so it wouldn't be a very good pickle, would it? You wouldn't remember much of that content. None of that content got absorbed, did it?
Nope.
Right. Okay. So if I said I wanted to teach kids skills in the 80s, this is what teachers would have to do. And I will show you so I won't make a mess. Okay. So here's our student, here's our content, here's our things. Why don't you come around? Can you find your way around? And I want to see what happens when we try now to add skills. What's going to happen? Here's our skills. You ready? Oh, no. I got one pickle in there. Oh, okay. Well, there's another pickle. There's another pickle. There's another pickle.
I see many pickles going there.
Okay, so we got pickles. Oh, but what am I forgetting?
All that stuff.
The onions.
The onions and...
Well, we got to get kids this content, don't we? So I'm going to push this onion in, aren't I? Okay. Okay. So, all right. So that's not going to work, is it? Well,
Nope.
no. All right. So here. All right. So, okay. I guess I'm done. I lost all my content, though. Look at all this vinegar is in the bowl now. I lost it all. It's all gone. All the content's gone. So how much are in there with the pickles? Well, I think maybe I could make more pickles if I tried. Uh-oh. I'm not doing a good job, am I?
No.
So how much did you actually learn here?
Some pickles and some content.
You got 2 cups of pickles,
Or
right?
some cucumbers and some content.
Right. All right. And you've got another, all right,
Cup.
another cup, but you don't have any onions, do you?
Nope.
You don't have any dill in there, do you? So, would the pickles really taste very good?
No.
Because they're not really marinating in the pickles. We still have to put salt in, don't we? So I'm actually going to get less content if I do this way, right?
Yes.
Okay. So that's why we need to change the way that, we approach teaching kids, because we want to get good, rich pickles, delicious pickles. So let's go back to 2012 now, 11 and 12, and see what life is like in a skills-based instructional setting. Okay?
Cool.
Fade out. Hey guys, welcome back to 2011. So you ready to see how we make pickles in 2011?
I am.
You ready? Okay. Let's review our ingredients. What do we need to have in order to make pickles?
Well, you need cucumbers.
We need cucumbers.
Yep.
Okay.
You need dill.
Dill.
You need onions.
Onions.
Salt and your vinegar.
Salt and vinegar.
And the jar.
And of course the jar.
And the
because
jar.
if we don't have the jar, we're not going to make pickles at all. Okay. So back in the 80s, we thought that the vinegar was the most important thing. Remember, we are teaching our students, and they are the empty vessels, and we were just pouring in the content into our anxiously awaiting students to get their information, right? So now, it's now 2011. So the essential ingredient now to an education is teaching kids how to do things, to apply knowledge. It's about the skill. So again, our cucumbers actually represent the skill, okay? So, and once again, our content is still our vinegar. We still need our salt, we still need onions, we still need the spices and the dill. What's essential though is the cucumbers what's important, let's face it, you do have to have vinegar to make pickles, so that is important to have. But everything else you can eat just vinegar and vinegar and cucumbers, and it will be maybe a little bland, but you can still do it, okay? So we add the spices, and that's the nice to know stuff. So we add salt. And we might add onion. And we might add dill, or we might add sugar if we want to make bread and butter pickles. But again, it really depends on the audience. It depends on what you want to do with it.
So like every individual subject.
Thank you. Might have different spices to go with it. Okay, so how a teacher needs to teach kids now is by first getting them to know how to use a skill. So when you make pickles now, we start off first by adding in our cucumbers. So help me, let's get our cucumbers added into our jar. Here, you guys, load them up.
Okay.
Put the cucumbers in the jar. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, let's see how many we can get in there. 5. Might have to cut this out a little bit.
Almost 6.
Well,
almost 6.
6.
6.
7.
Feel bad for the student.
Yeah, I know. 7. We're hurting his head, right?
That is a lot of skills.
Okay, so he's got 7 skills in him now. Okay. So now, well, do you think we should add some really good flavor? I mean, because back in the 80s, if I were going to add some onion to it, what I would do as a teacher, I want some good flavor, I want some good content in my lesson, is I would give it to the kids all at one time. I would go like this. Okay? Is that going to get very oniony in our pickles?
No, because it's outside the jar.
True.
Nope.
No. So it's not going to add it and contribute any flavor, and the kid might not even do this. So maybe in a class, we might have to take out one pickle, but if we break the onion down into smaller pieces, which we can do by cutting it up or getting smaller onions, we can all of a sudden add content in the good, important information. Look at that. I just fit. Next thing we could do is we could even add more content, couldn't we?
The nice to know.
The nice to know
stuff.
But you don't really need to know it, but it's just nice to know. So I could probably pour in this whole entire thing of salt, couldn't I?
I.e. nice to know.
Right, but I could, okay, so you have your content in your onions, you have your content in your salt, and now here comes the vinegar.
The vinegar.
Okay, so we're gonna pouring more content in, okay? Now let's see how much content we can put in.
I didn't know making pickles could be so painful.
Oh, come on. Okay, so there we go. We have skills, we have content, we even have more content. Now we could, and we probably should have put it in earlier, we could spice it up with even some more dill. Okay, so how much water do you think is in that, or how much vinegar do you think is in that jar?
Wow. Well, that was full, and now it's at, what, half-ish?
Yep, probably. You want to measure how much water is in there? Let's see how much water. Okay, look at that. That is what? How many cups?
2 cups.
2 cups already?
2 cups.
And we even have more space. There's even more content in there that we can. Okay, so we have what now?
1 cup about.
So 3 cups of water in this pickle jar.
That's already full.
And it's still full, isn't it? Even if we took it out, because there's more content in here, okay? So, not only are you learning content, but guess what else? You're getting the whole pickle. You're getting the content and the skills.
Yeah.
And that's what 21st century education is about. Infusing the skills with the flavor of the content. So you're learning more.
So in every subject, they may have their little bits and pieces, but they all come together as you build off of them, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And it all comes back to the skills. The big pickle.
Yep.
Isn't that exciting?
That's all the time we have for today, so we thank you for joining us on another episode of the North Middlesex Regional High School's View. This program has been brought to you by the North Middlesex Community Outreach.
To see any previous episodes of the North Middlesex Regional High School View, go to nmview.webs.com.